What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 48 of the U.S.S. CERRITOS tutorial. I'm Zerly, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we have about a 29-minute video. We're going to be focusing on the captain's ready room and the conference room on the CERRITOS. Now, those of you that have been sticking with me through this tutorial, I definitely appreciate it. But I've been talking about this a little bit. One of the reasons why I haven't built those two rooms, when we were up in the bridge, you might have noticed that I dedicated spaces specifically for both the captain's ready room and the conference room. But basically the problem that I was having and why I didn't just right away start building was that um, the ceiling is too low and we can't actually delete anything above us once we go up into the bridge. The roof that's there has to stay there. If we end up moving it, it's going to be too big. And it's taken me a little while to figure out what I wanted to do. And then it just dawned on me the easiest solution for this is just to go a row down. So we're directly below the bridge in engineering, and we're going to be taking out some of the roof here, and we're literally just going to be moving it down by one block, and this will give us the headroom that we need. The only exception that I'm going to be making by doing this is that there's going to be a one-step stair to get into, or excuse me, to go in from the bridge into the captain's ready room going down, and then into the conference room. But it's only one step, and I think when it's done, I think you'll like it. This is going to be a two-parter episode because we have a little bit to do. But without further ado, let's actually go ahead and jump right into this thing while I'm yapping away because we don't have a ton of time today. But like I said, about a 29-minute video. Um, so I've actually gone ahead and we did this when we were working on engineering. That we have a divider line here, and you can see that that divider line is actually directly in the middle of our left and right main corridors. So if you don't have that line there, you want to go ahead and add that in because everything going back, we're going to be getting rid of. Anything going this way, we're going to leave that, if that makes sense. We're not going to be deleting any of the walls or any of these half slabs. We're just going to be focusing on these gray blocks right in this area. We're going to do that on both sides. So we're going to go ahead and bang that out. And while we're working on that, there's a couple other rooms that I'm looking forward to getting into on the CERRITOS. We still have some work to do on this ship. I've got to do the bar area and, of course, the crew mess hall and then crew quarters. Um, there's a few other rooms I'm going to do, but if there's any rooms that you would specifically like to see me do on this tutorial, take this time to drop a comment below because I usually get comments on these ships after I'm done building them. People will ask me, oh, why don't you add this or why don't you add that? And then I have to come back and tell them, hey, I'm sorry, man, I'm not working on this ship anymore. I've already completed it. So basically what I'm trying to say is if there's any rooms that you want to see me add on this ship, now is the time to ask me. Um, because what are we at now? We're on episode 48. I don't know how many more episodes we're going to have on this. At this point, I'm going to try to wrap this up in the time frame that it takes. But at the same time, I don't want to linger on the CERRITOS more than we really need to. I had always intended this tutorial to be much shorter than the Disco Enterprise, and I think we're going to end up in the 50s by the time that we're done. I don't see us going past that. But regardless, if there's something that you want to see, now is the time to ask, because once I move on from this ship, the likelihood of me revisiting it, really the only way that's going to happen is like, for example, like when season 2 of Lower Decks or any of the following seasons come out, they would have to show something on the interior that my ship doesn't have, and it would be cool to add in it. That would really be the only reason for me to come back to it. Other than that, at this point, once we finish, I'm going to be moving on, and then we're going to be on to Enterprise D. Speaking of that, our next build's coming up. That's also the next thing I want to talk about because we've been getting a lot of tutorials done here, and I didn't really want to talk about what we're going to be doing after the Enterprise D, but now is the time to start thinking about that stuff. So if there's any ships that you want to see me do after the Enterprise D, definitely drop a comment below. But bear in mind right now, I'm just building next generation era ships. If there's any other ships that you want to see me do, you can still drop those in the comments section. But if I do end up doing them, if I get enough people asking for it, it may not be until a later date. Now, I pause this for a second because I want to get in a little bit about what we got going on here. You can see I've deleted all the ceiling blocks behind this gray line, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go directly behind this gray line. We're going to do a row of half slabs going all the way across to the other side. And what we're essentially doing is we're creating a lip, because what we're going to be doing behind this line is we're going to be adding a row of um, a full gray block. But since it's going to be down by one, this half slab is essentially going to cut that block in half where it's not going to look as big. That's one of the reasons why I love using these half slabs, because you're not having this full block and it doesn't look as bulky, basically. And that's one of the things I try to avoid when I'm building in Minecraft. So at the end of the day, you're working with blocks, but you want to try to get the cleanest look that you possibly can. And I think that these half slabs really help to achieve that. So at this point, it's pretty simple. We're just going to fill in the open space. Anywhere that there's an opening in the ceiling that we've cut out, we're going to fill that in. We want to make sure that we're not filling in anywhere where there's half slabs. But if you didn't delete any of those half slabs going around the border, you should be good. So just be careful while doing that. And then once we've completed this side, we're going to hop over to the left side of the ship, because we're actually on the right side right now. And then we're going to repeat the same process. Once we're done with that, we're going to head up into the bridge, and then we're actually going to start building out this thing. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I have planned that I want to do on the YouTube channel in the future. And definitely drop those comments on ships that you want to see me do, and we'll go from there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I like how that's pretty much what I was thinking it was going to look like. It really doesn't look bad, and what I really like the most about this is that it's not changing the design of engineering. We're just working with what we have, but we're just slightly editing it to accommodate for these new rooms that we're going to be adding in. So I'm kind of making a decision here, at least going along this wall here, I'm going to get rid of this row of half slabs, because it's just kind of standing out to me. You can see I'm not doing it over the doorway. I want that cut to stay there because I want there to be a transitional pillar going across the doorway above you when you go into that corridor. I think we're going to get rid of these also. And stop right there. That looks pretty good. If you really wanted to, could go and even add a row of half slabs going along here, just to give a cut line on the top there on the back. It wouldn't look bad. I don't have it on mine, but you could definitely do it on yours. At this point, it's a dealer's choice, whatever you're feeling at this point. So we're just going to bang this out on this side. And while this is going, I've been having some people very excited about the Enterprise D. And I just want to thank everybody that took the time to check out the teaser. I had 70 views in one day, and I couldn't believe that I had that many views on the teaser for it. And there seems to be a lot of interest in the Enterprise D, so I just want to thank everybody that's taken the time to watch that video and comment. I've been having a lot of people ask me on stuff I'm going to be doing with the interior, and there's a lot of stuff I want to do with that ship, but I haven't. Well, I put it this way: I've thought about it, but I haven't put a lot of work into it, at least that portion of it at this point, because I'm still on the building the outside of it. And it's kind of hard to gauge how many rooms I'm going to have exactly until I get in there and I really start dividing it up. But that's something I'm really looking forward to getting into. If you were with me during the Cerritos or even the Disco era Enterprise, I'm pretty much going to be approaching the interior in the same manner in which I did those other two tutorials. And it's just a matter of dividing up the areas that you have to work with based on a loose layout anyway of what these Federation ships look like on the inside. And it all starts with the corridors. You throw the corridors down first, and that dictates your layout, and then you can start adding your rooms and building things out that way. That's honestly the smartest way to do it, and that's exactly what I'm going to end up doing for the Enterprise D. So anyway, we've completed what we need to complete down here in engineering. We moved the floor down by one, so now we're going to head up into the bridge. and we're going to go over to the right. This is going to be our captain's ready room. So now we're going to start cleaning up this room a little bit, getting it ready to put the walls in. We're going to get rid of these access blocks. We want to make a nice, clean, square room as much as we possibly can. You can see that there's a gap there in the lower left-hand corner that goes down. Don't worry about that because that is a dead space area. So we don't necessarily need to worry about this. We're just going to fill it in, do what we need to do. You can see I'm just going to go in with the gray blocks. I'm using, if you're wondering, concrete blocks for this build. Everything that I've pretty much used on the Cerritos, with an exception of the half slabs and the white terracotta. Everything else is pretty much the concrete blocks. I kind of messed up a little bit there. I want to swap out that gray line for a white concrete line because our walls are going to end up being white, so we want everything to match in here a little bit better. With the exception of the doorway, we're just going to fill in these walls a little bit. And you see that we have the blue on the walls there to the left. Don't worry about that. We're going to use that to our advantage, and we're going to use that for detailing in both conference room and captain's ready room. We're going to turn those into computer consoles for those rooms. You can see we've even got a little bit more room back here. If we went all the way back behind us to the left, we've got a whole U that we could have taken advantage of that space. And if you decide you want to do that, all you would simply need to do is just lower down the rest of your roof in engineering to accommodate what we just did a few moments ago down there. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to be doing anything past the ready room and the conference room. To be honest, I couldn't really think of anything to put back there, and that's one of the things I try to do with my ships. I try not to stuff them with things that don't need to be there or that you would never see on a Federation ship, because those are going to be the things that take you out of it, you know. So doesn't have to be perfect, but that's just kind of how I look at it. I try to stick to it as much as I possibly can, so this way when you're actually walking through this ship, you feel like you're actually on the Cerritos as much as I possibly can anyway on Minecraft. You see we're just adding that wall, one block directly behind the cut line. Doesn't have to be precise to what I have. You can honestly eye it also and it'd be perfectly fine. It's definitely one of the advantages when you're building on the interior. You can get away a lot more with eyeing it and the measurements not being precise. And in fact, for a lot of the builds, you can honestly get away with that too. I think the only exception to that is probably the saucer. I'll be the first person to say it. Do not try to build a saucer freehand if it's a big one, because I guarantee you're just going to be cursing and cussing up a storm until you eventually succumb to the pixel circle generator. So just save yourself a couple hours of work and just jump into that to begin with. But a lot of the stuff here, you know, we can get away with just kind of winging it. You see, rather than doing a regular staircase, I'm just going to do a row of half slabs right there. So that'll be our transition to go down. And I don't think that'll actually look bad. You know, once I had seen that the Enterprise D had staircases, it somewhat changed my opinion on having staircases on Federation ships. Not necessarily all of them, but maybe at least the next generation ones. Um, and you wouldn't necessarily have them all over the place. Like if you actually go on a tour of the Enterprise D, just go on YouTube and type in U.S.S. Enterprise 3D tour. When you go from the bridge to the conference room, you actually walk down a staircase. They never showed it in the show though. From what I can see, like it doesn't seem like it serves that much of a purpose. Maybe it does. Maybe like they couldn't just put the conference room further back. Maybe that's just kind of how it fit. But from what I can mostly see with it, it was purely a decorative choice, is what I'm trying to get at. And if they had them in Next Generation, it would make sense that the Cerritos would have them too, especially since it's so abundantly clear that the Cerritos took so many design cues from the Enterprise D. So we can use that to our advantage because, again, there's only one season of Lower Decks that's been out, so there's obviously going to be rooms in different areas that we haven't seen. So we might as well reference Enterprise D. You see, I'm just adding a row of black blocks, and that is actually going to be a window. And that is something I actually wanted to mess around with. I might actually go back and make it. I was going to make it blue because technically we're on a planet right now. It'd be kind of weird if it was black, but I decided to make it black because my consoles, some of them on the Cerritos, are blue, and I didn't want anybody to get confused thinking, okay, is that a window or is that a console? I was like, you know what, I think maybe for the interior, maybe I'll try out just doing black windows, see how it looks. If it looks bad, we can always change it. But at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing on this build um, is stuff that I'm prepping out to do for the Enterprise D. Um, because this build, in so many ways, it really wasn't a challenge to build. The only hard part on the Cerritos um, was the pylons that connected the lower hull to the engines, and then the upper saucer section. Doing that bit of detail was pretty difficult. It wasn't that bad. Not nearly as challenging as the Enterprise D was. And now we're just getting some detail in the back. I think, it'd be a little classy if, might as well give the captain some books. Why not, Just get some detail in the room. And you know what? You don't have to necessarily do this. You can throw in whatever type of detail you want in this room, make it your own. But I'm loosely referencing um, the captain's ready room from the Cerritos. Uh, I just decided, that shelf is exactly where where it needs to be. And rather than it being an empty shelf, might as well throw some books on it to make it look nice. Maybe even if it wasn't necessarily on the show, it's in Minecraft. These are the blocks we have to work with, and we're just going to run with it. You see, I'm doing upside down staircases to make it look like um, it's kind of like a floating desk that's attached to the wall. And to accommodate that, we're just doing a row of half slabs directly underneath that, and then I'm just zooming out to see what that looks like. What I might end up doing here is just bringing up the row of half slabs by one, because it looked kind of funky the way it was a second ago, and I think that'll look a little bit nicer. Don't necessarily need to do it over here, but I'm going to do it anyway, only because I like going by that habit. If you do one thing on one side, and if it's supposed to match on the other side, you should probably do it over there too. Otherwise, it's going to stand out and look like you made a mistake. All right, we're going to get rid of the rest of those half slabs. We're just going to fill in the rest of that with the gray concrete blocks. And I think you'll be pretty happy with how the captain's ready room came out. I'm not going to lie, I was not fully satisfied with the conference room. And I think, in all honesty, no matter what I do, no matter how I rebuild it, I'm never going to be fully satisfied with it. And the reason for that is both the Cerritos conference room and the Enterprise D conference room, they go at a curve. And it's going to be very challenging, um, not necessarily to build a curved room, but it's going to be challenging to build a curved desk on here without it looking super janky. So for that reason, on the Cerritos, I'm just going to try out doing a straight room for the conference room. If you don't like that, let me know in the comments section. If you think that's, the best thing that we could possibly do, which is what I think at that point, it's kind of one of those situations where we're making lemonade out of lemons. There's not really much else that we can do other than just accepting that if we stick to the design, it's going to look bad. And then you could be like, well, at least it looks like it, but it looks like crap. I would rather it looks good, but maybe it's a little bit off from the source material. And that's going to tie into one of the things I talk about, that sometimes when you're building stuff in Minecraft, it doesn't always transition well um, from the real world into Minecraft. And this is just going to be one of those cases with the conference room. So we're grabbing some gray carpet, and I'm grabbing that because I think we're going to just end up covering up this floor here with the gray carpeting. And the reason I'm doing that is because we have, if you look over to the left, we've got some terracotta blocks, and we've got some half slabs, and we've got a sea lantern poking out. And unless we go down below and go into engineering and mess with that stuff and kind of restructure how that's set up, really the only other thing that we can do is add in some carpet. So as a temporary solution, maybe a permanent solution, I'm just going to throw in the carpet and be done with it, I think. It's not going to look bad. And see, you can cover up the sea lantern with a carpet, and you'd never know that it's underneath there if you didn't delete it. See, it was a little dark right there, so we're going to take advantage of that, throw a sea lantern down there, and cover it up with carpet. But that's pretty much as big as a captain's ready room needs to be. We're going to do a facade for a doorway going to the right in a few moments, but we're not going to make anything going in there. This right here, see, this is where I was talking about that we're going to use this blue strip and make it a double for a console on this side as well. Now I'm deleting those blocks going below me, so this way I could go down a little bit and do the stairs going up. So I'm just going to go back again, throw the blocks back down that I had before, and now I'm going to put the carpet back above them. Now, this row right here, that's going into our corridor hub that would bring us up into the bridge or the front of the saucer. I just decided to make that gray. I'll go back down there at a later point, and if we need to add in lighting in another space, we'll just do that. I really don't think we need half slabs going along this whole room. I think we'll just do the half slabs right there going above the console. That doesn't look too bad. This is, there's one or two things we have left to do in that room. I think at this point we're actually going to spend the rest of today's episode in the conference room. We've shot by most of today's episode. We've got about 8 minutes left, but we're going to focus mostly on the conference room at this point. But this episode is actually going to be broken up into 2 episodes. We'll be finishing both the conference room and the ready room on episode 49. Now I'm going to do a little bit of exploratory building here, just messing around a little bit to try to come up with a shape. What I told you guys what I was going to do with the conference room and basically make it a straight room rather than circular, that's what I end up on. But I'm going to do a couple of things here with layering on the walls to see kind of just how it looks. But I wanted to show this in the tutorial just so you can, see some differences, because at the end of the day, this is just kind of my preference, and not everybody's going to feel the same way. I'm sure there's going to be at least a couple of people that say I want a curved room, so I try to make it work based on the space that I have. You see, we really have to be careful here on the blocks that we delete, because there's only certain ones that we can, at least on the sides. We go too far out, and then we're deleting on the outside. And that was another problem that I was facing, and why I ultimately decided to make this room a little bit more square, because I just really didn't have a ton of room to work with. But it just, this felt appropriate to have the conference room. I didn't, put it this way, I didn't want to like have to go downstairs and like walk down like a mile, put the conference room. The conference room should be right by the bridge, if not right next to it. So all the blocks here that I'm deleting, we can't delete anything above them. We have right there. If we do, then we'll be on the outside. Now, if you really wanted to, what you could do, and I'm probably going to do it here, is go along the ceiling here with half slabs and see how it looks. Yeah, and this could definitely be an option. It doesn't look horrible, but it's one of those things where I don't know why, it just looked weird to me. Again, this is dead space down here, so we're just going to fill that in, and we're just going to clean up this wall here in the corner. We're just going to bring the walls down all the way. So now we just have that nice transition there going along the ceiling. So we kind of got like a curve. Maybe we could try to bring the wall, the room extended a little bit. We can delete some of the walls behind us and see how far back we can really go. This wall right here. Um, but again, just be very conservative with it, doing one row at a time. Don't delete a bunch of stuff, because if you accidentally delete something on the outside, you may not necessarily know where you need to put a block back. Uh, Another thing you could do, if you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake, make a copy of your save. After you make a copy of your save, go into that copy and then start going to town. If you make a mistake, delete that save and then go back to the other one and make a copy of that save. So this way you don't lose the work that you don't want to lose. I think on this wall here, we're going to add like a computer console. I think that'll look pretty good. I think one of the reasons too why I ultimately end up making this room straighter is because I end up having a little bit more room. And another thing I really wanted to do in the conference room is adding in those the windows that you always see. And it doesn't even matter what ship it is. Like you go into the conference room, usually going along the left side or the right side is this beautiful row, big bay windows, just overlooking space. And I didn't feel that I had enough room based off what I had to work with here. Combination of that, and it just wasn't looking the way I wanted it to look. Slowly but surely, between this episode and then the next one, we're going to make this a little bit straighter. And it's going to deviate, but that's okay. We can deviate a little bit here and there. You see I'm going down because I'm going to do a row of upside down staircases so we can make it look like a floating desk. And there you go, we got a computer console here. We've actually got two of them. This one directly in front of me, we're going to end up getting rid of that. We're only going to keep the one on the left when we reconfigure the room here. And I'm not going to lie, the other thing that I don't like about this current configuration is that it's just too small. If we had more room to work with going along the back wall here, and we could have maybe made this room bigger going out that way, could have maybe made this work. When you see here what we had to work with, based on like not having everything stick together, like bouncing off the walls, you're not talking about a very big desk at this point, or at least a conference table, and it's more of like a glorified desk at that point. So that's something else I didn't want to do either. You can see I try here. I was like, well, I'll just get rid of the rows going down. I just won't delete anything above. Maybe I can just walk around, but it felt tight, you know? The more I started messing with this, I just felt like this room it just feels very, very constricted, which is the exact opposite of what I want it to feel. Again, we don't have a ton of room to work with, but I feel like we can do better than this. And then the other thing I don't like about this also is I can't put in my big, beautiful windows that I want to put in. Now, one thing that is kind of a cheat on this specific build, and it's totally unique to this one build, that I did with both the conference room and the captain's ready room, is that the windows, you can only see them from the inside. And from the inside, they're looking out into space. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. If you like that, let me know in the comment section. You think that's a wise idea? If you think that maybe that's just unrealistic and bad, let me know that too. I'd definitely love to hear from everybody regarding that. I at least thought it was a clever idea, worth trying. Um, maybe for the point of maybe if you're in a position where you just can't add those windows in, like I was here, at least we can do them on the inside to look like they're there. But I mean, would you necessarily notice that they're not on the outside unless you actually went out to that specific spot to find them? How many people are necessarily going to do that also? So that's kind of like my thinking behind that and why I made those decisions. But yeah, we've gotten a decent amount done today. We're going to be wrapping this up here in just a second. I'm going to let this play out and because I want to make sure that we're caught up when we go into episode 49. But I think we're going to get rid of this desk and we're going to get rid of these other half slabs here. And you see I can't delete any of this. So I'm losing. I can get rid of those, but these right here, this is totally messing me up, and there's just nothing we can do about it other than changing the layout of the outside of the ship, which is just going to cause problems. So that again is ultimately just going to cause me to change kind of the layout of this room, but we're going to get into that in tomorrow's episode. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. We've got a lot done, but I just want to thank you all again for tuning in to today's episode. And if you haven't, please help me out. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. New subscribers, also don't forget to hit notifications on so you always get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, this is something I want to talk about. My schedule is somewhat changing. The amount of videos that I have coming out is not changing, only the time of day. So don't forget to tune in on Mondays for my Starship Evo builds and my Minecraft videos Tuesdays through Fridays uh, for Minecraft. And those videos are dropping at 7 p.m. Eastern now, not 10 a.m. So this video will be dropping at 7 p.m. Eastern, so definitely check that out. And yeah, that's going to wrap us up. Just want to thank you all again. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you on the next episode.